Something that's been bothering me about gaming in general for a while is, I would say, the lack of civility when it comes to actually discussing particulars of the medium itself. Now, I don't mean, for those of you who were around for this, the Jack Thompson railing against the idea of video games as nothing more than violence simulators, or that video games would cause, violence in kids. But the conversation that takes place more or less between fans of the medium itself. While it's true that we as people often divide ourselves, whether that be through tribes, religions, or nationalities, our greatest strength, beyond our ability to think, is the ability to have a rational discourse with one another and see different points of view. Unfortunately, in real life and in the gaming community, many tend to close ranks and double down when they feel their perspective is under threat. The reason for this, I feel, is a fundamental misunderstanding about facts, opinions, and bias. It's for that reason that I want to go over how these three contribute to the construction or deconstruction of a rational discussion. Facts, as defined by Webster, are things that truly exist or happen, or true pieces of information. To give you a couple of examples in a gaming context, number one would be that a Call of Duty title sold X number of copies in a given year. This is a fact because it's easily provable based on sales data, assuming you can get a hold of that. Another example would be that Gears of War is a third-person cover-based shooter. This is fairly evident based on how the game plays. No one can argue that it's a first-person shooter, for example. So because both of these facts can either be supported by data or are self-evident, you cannot argue their nature as facts, so they must be acknowledged as facts. And the important thing about a fact is that it can be proven. And if you're using a fact in a discussion, you should cite your sources or link to them if you have an article or a study to back that up. Now, facts, if you're trying to prove a point, should be the cornerstone of any discussion. If your viewpoint cannot be backed up by facts, then it falls into a second category. Opinions, again defined by Webster, are beliefs, judgments, or ways of thinking about something. What someone thinks about a particular thing, advice from someone with special knowledge, and in a more specified context, advice from an expert. Or a formal statement by a judge, court, etc., explaining the reasons a decision was made according to laws or rules. Opinions in gaming are based on personal experience, preferences, or assertions based on your own understanding or interpretation of a subject. To give you an example of an opinion, which should be fairly obvious, an opinion is if you believe the combat in, say, Dark Souls is the best in any action RPG. This is not a fact, it's just based on your experience and preferences when it comes to action RPGs. Or to use another example, you think that the Halo series is the best first-person shooter franchise ever made. Again, this is something that can't be proven. It's merely a matter of personal preference. While you can give reasons X, Y, and Z for an opinion, it's not necessary for you to cite or explain your reasons. You may just like Dark Souls combat better than other games, or you may just feel that Halo has such an impact on your overall gaming experience that nothing can compare to it. That's perfectly fine to state, so long as you do not attempt to assert your opinion as a fact, which is a trap that many people fall into. And this second point is, I feel, where we go astray sometimes, especially with these discussions, because too often when someone states an opinion, someone else will, try to rebuff it. But you can't rebuff an opinion. You are entitled to your opinion, but many gamers and indeed others in the gaming community fall into the trap of the third point of this video. Bias, as defined by Webster for our purposes, are inclinations of temperament or outlook, especially personal and sometimes unreasoned judgments, prejudices or instances of such prejudices. And essentially, the dark side of an opinion is bias. A bias occurs when someone takes an opinion and treats it as a fact and asserts that their personal bias is superior to any other opinion. This is something that seems to affect a huge majority of gamers to the point that they will allow anger and other emotions to override reason and escalate a discussion into an outright argument. There are many examples of this, usually relating to the bias of this franchise is better than this other franchise because the second franchise is dumb. Or, if you want a more specific example, Nintendo isn't a real gaming company because they market to casuals. This is something I've heard the last 2 generations. You can't treat that statement as a fact because someone is showing blatant prejudice against Nintendo because the person making that assertion feels that they in fact are not a casual gamer and that casual gamers are not real gamers. And as I said previously, bias is the dark side of an opinion. It is willfully harmful or argumentative simply for the sake of reinforcing the person's own beliefs. Rather than engage in a meaningful discussion with someone who might not share their opinion, they double down and assert their beliefs, their opinions, and say that their opinions are the correct ones. It's important to remember that simply having an opinion does not put you in the wrong, as long as your opinion is neither harmful or prejudicial. Harmful opinions like female gamers aren't real gamers or video games should not tackle social issues fall into this category. Fundamentally, a bias is a failure to engage with others to see them as wrong simply because they don't hold to your point of view. What it all boils down to is that you can have a discussion about facts and you can have a discussion about opinions. You cannot have a discussion about bias. Facts can be used to prove or disprove a point, and opinions can help you to see another point of view. You may not personally like a particular franchise, while someone else may be a hardcore fan of it. Seeing what they like about it while simultaneously imparting what you don't like about it adds to the discussion. Both sides can respect the other's viewpoint and move on. Bias, on the other hand, seeks to prove an opinion correct when it is impossible to do so. Those who adhere to bias and disregard fact are condemning themselves to an echo chamber, where the only thing that matters is the repeating bias. It's important to remember, however, that as long as an opinion is neither harmful nor prejudicial, it's just that, an opinion. You don't have to defend your opinion, but you can be called to account for your bias. Sorry for the short duration of this video. I felt that a tighter focus was better for the topic that we were discussing here. Essentially, what I want to get across to you, and a lot of you may know this already, so don't take this personally, I'm not saying anyone's an idiot, is that you should never allow your opinion to turn into a bias. Always treat your opinion as just that, an opinion, your own experience, your own kind of beliefs on a subject. And treat others, their opinions, with the same level of respect. Their opinion and their experience may allow you to get a different perspective or a new idea that you would not have considered before. And as I said, that is one of the greatest strengths of society and of the cultural mixing that we have going on in the world today. We can communicate with people from all over the world. We should never try to shoot down their opinions as long as they're not harmful or prejudicial just because they're different than ours. The more opinions we have, the better we're able to see each other from different points of view and come up with new ideas or new experiences or new narratives. Video games are a great example of this, because video games can take experiences from cultures that you may have never heard of and tie them into a narrative, which is just amazing. Or different life experiences, playing as a female character if you're a male, or playing as a male character if you happen to be a female gamer. And that's where we have to kind of stay at. We have to allow facts to rule where they need to, but also not be afraid to take each other's opinions into account. Just never let an opinion turn into a bias, and usually you'll come out okay. It's unfortunate that some people allow their emotions to ride them and really just want an echo chamber for their own bias, but I firmly believe that most people aren't like that, or maybe I'm being an optimist. But that's going to do it for today, folks. I will hopefully have a longer video next time. I'm still working on getting the footage together, but it'll be more of a discussion on an actual gaming topic rather than a kind of rational discourse deconstruction. But that's going to do it for today, folks. If you've got any questions or if you'd like to discuss it with me, just leave a comment below and I'll take a look at it. If you want to see more, just hit that like button or subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. See you.